Welcome to this week's edition of Entrepreneurship Matters. I'm Alicia Wilson, Vice President for Economic Development for Johns Hopkins University and Johns Hopkins Health System. And it is my pleasure to have two amazing entrepreneurs this week on from the construction industry. Let me introduce and bring on this to the screen Hank Cunningham and Brandon Johnson.
Hi, this is Hank Cunningham with the Cunningham Consulting Group. I just wanted to introduce myself to the team. I'm a general contractor, specialized in the installation of laboratory furniture. Been in business since 2019. I'm a veteran of the United States Army, and I've been in construction for over 31 years.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Cunningham, for filling in while I was in a dead zone. You are extensively credentialed. Let me introduce Brandon Johnson. Brandon is the president of Consider It Done Construction Company, LLC. He has owned and operated his business since 2008. He earned his business economics graduate from Randolph-Macon College and is a second generation business builder. And he learned under the tutelage of his father, Morris Johnson, and his uncle, Marvin Butch Johnson. He adopted several of their philosophies and works alongside them in building an amazing business in the DMV, Maryland, and Virginia area, in gut and cosmetic residential renovation, custom built homes, and new residential construction. Built on the back of family ties, Consider It Done has maintained an understanding that family and community matters. Welcome both Mr. Cunningham and welcome Mr. Johnson to this week's edition. Glad to have you both.
Nice, thanks. We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, so let me get right into it. Let me start with Mr. Cunningham. What inspired you to want to be an entrepreneur? And then I'm gonna go to Mr. Johnson with the same question.
All right.
Well, myself and my wife, we both have large families, and a lot of times they've been asking me, the kids, what do I do, and for a living, because they see, me out and about and doing a lot of things, and I've been getting older, and I have kids, and so with this 31 years of experience that I have in the industry, I felt like I wanted to share some of those experiences with family members by starting a business and potentially transitioning over to one of those individuals and trying to generate some generational wealth, as I see in other companies and well-established companies. And so I just wanted to share with them the knowledge that I've had over the years, not just, retiring and go off and enjoy life, but continue to share my experiences and help them along the way in their journey. And just create some things that others can benefit from, my experience.
Yeah, I think we've heard many entrepreneurs talk about building generational wealth, building a legacy for their family, being a part of their inspiration. How about you, Brandon? What was your inspiration to become an entrepreneur?
Well, pretty much off of the same strength, piggybacking on building generational wealth. My father did it, and my grandma was an entrepreneur. My mom, she worked as an engineer, but she's also a musician. So that was her entrepreneur push. So like, we come from a family of hustlers and we just make it happen. So my father was always in my corner, like, bro, you can do it, you can do it. And he put me and my sisters to college and took care of the family and done pretty well. So I figured, well, let me find out how I can take some of the things that he didn't do and take all of the things that he did do and combine them to figure out how to make it better, because I felt like I would be doing a disservice if I would have just let all of his hard work, just go to waste or not pursue the opportunity and try to figure out how to become a great entrepreneur and one of the best construction companies in the industry.
Yeah, no, and both of you, I appreciate that. And both of you are at the top of the game. You are businesses and business owners that are revered in your industry. And so tell others that are watching, how did you start your business? So how did you go from a passion around building wealth for your family, building that up, to launching a business? So I'll start with Mr. Cunningham. How did you go from idea and concept to what you have now? What were the steps you went through?
Well, I guess the first thing I prayed about it, and I went to my
Yeah.
wife and talked to her about it, and just wanted to make sure she was going to be on board with it, because as you go through life, you generate some finances, that you hope to retire with. So I'm putting all of that at risk. So I just talked to her about what I wanted to do, what I desired to do, with the kids and all of that, and trying to generate some interest in them and doing something different than what they were doing. And so I looked into what it would take to get a license, got my license, all the insurance things, and got that paperwork in place. And then I talked to my current employer and told him what I was trying to do. And I let him know that I was going to start my own business. So I wanted him to know that. And I also didn't want to hurt the current business. So we came up with a transition plan where I would work with him for a year, continue with my contacts and share those contacts with the new people coming on board. And that allowed me to slowly get into the market, talk to other trade contractors and partners, and let them know what my intentions were, to get buy-in from them that, they would support my efforts. And I got great support and feedback from folks when they found out that I wanted to do this, and which was very, just, inspiring to know that people were willing to help and were looking to give you advice. And I have a mentor in the industry who was instrumental in just telling me who to talk to, if I want insurance, or if I'm looking for bonding, or, all of those key pieces that I needed to put in place. I had a mentor kind of giving me some direction. So that's kind of my journey that I took. And eventually I just cut the cord with my employer and just went out on my own. So that's what I'm doing right now. And it's been a blessing.
And what you just said, I think, is helpful guidance for those who are entrepreneurs. One, you said you prayed about it. Second, you learned under the tutelage of someone else who was doing it. You got your license. You had a transition plan as you thought about that. And I'm going to come back to this point around mentorship, but I think it's just an important point for others listening. We've heard that over and over in business, how important that is as a part of the plan. So I think those steps you just said were just gems for everyone. How about you, Brandon? How did you start in the industry?
Well, definitely prayed. I mean, in everything I do, you have to start with that. God is the ruler of all things. So unfortunately, I didn't have such a designed and secure path when it came to starting up. I don't want to say it was willy-nilly, but it definitely was creative, put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, of course, I went through all of the parameters of setting up the company and getting the licenses, et cetera. But when it came to like operating capital and finances, I didn't come from another company. So I had just bought a house. It was probably the wrong time to start a company. When I look back on it, it didn't all the way make sense. So I probably should have waited maybe 5 or 6 years. And during that time, it was 2006. I just bought a house and I was working for a company that was a little bit underneath. And I realized that it wasn't the standard that I was raised on, and the type of quality and value in construction that I was raised with, and my father and my uncle had taught me. So I parted ways with that company, and that was maybe about 6 months after purchasing my first house. And so now I'm just out here like, okay, well, off the strength of my father's legacy, I'm gonna see if I can get a connect with this and connect with that. And I started to reach out to other people. My father was on the line, my family was on the line. Everybody's saying, well, call Brandon, he can take care of it, consider it done. They're starting a new thing, et cetera, et cetera. Fast forward about 3 years, the recession hit. So that was nuts. And I kind of had to backtrack. I kept, there was a lot of people in my ear like, well, maybe you should just get a regular job. I was going into my first marriage, and everybody was saying, well, you got to have something secure and this, that, and the third. And then fast forward another 5 years. Well, I had worked for an engineering company. I started there, I worked there about a year. And then after that, the phone kept ringing all through that time where I was working for the other company. That was KCW Engineering Company. The phone kept ringing and people kept calling and asking if we were still taking on a legacy that my father had started, and they heard that we were in a business. So it seemed like everything was drawing us back. So me and my partner, Marlon Graves, we ended up just linking up, and he said, well, bro, I'm just gonna roll with you. And from there, we picked up 2 other guys and we just kept jamming. And for a good maybe 10 years straight, we dealt with a few venture capitalists, and so it goes.
I love how you said, first of all, both of you started with prayer. It's very helpful for a lot of folks to really keep that at the center. I think you talked about being willy-nilly in the beginning. We've had a lot of entrepreneurs that talked about that period of time.
Yeah.
But you did the fundamentals. You got the licensing. This is thinking about the gems that the entrepreneurs that are watching, the folks who are watching. You also work for someone, and we've had many entrepreneurs come on and talk about this. Work for someone, and you realize that that's not the standard that you want your business to be under. And so that being really fuel in the tank that allows for you to shift. And then aligning with your team and building your team. But I want to go back to something that both you and Mr. Cunningham talked about, which is capital. And so how did you finance? How did you start your businesses from a financing standpoint? Mr. Cunningham, how did you do that?
Well, I had savings, and 401k, IRA, all of that was kind of the basis of my start. And so I had that as a nest egg, and then some cash in the bank. So that's kind of how and then the relationship that I had with the contractors that I was working with, they allowed me to, they paid me timely because of our relationship, long-term relationship. So as I was doing projects and larger projects, I didn't have a whole lot of cash out of pocket for, the boots on the ground. So that allowed me to quickly start to build a little bit of a revenue stream. And then I had the nest egg of, the 401k to fall back on if I needed to do that. So far, thankfully, I've been blessed to the point where I haven't had to do that because of, the way things have been happening, and prayerfully so, that they've been working out pretty well. But I also was able to go out to the bank and establish a line of credit. So that was something that I was able to do early on, which I was also thankful for. So a lot of things happen because of, my mentor turning me on to the right people to be able to help and influence what I was doing. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to get back to that point. That's going to be my next question. But Brandon, I want to hear about you. How did you build capital to finance your business?
Faith. Those that know I got faith. Yeah. That was it pretty much. And I mean, a lot of friends and family. I reached out and bugged everybody. Shout out to anybody that's out here watching who invested in the CID, because it was literally picking up the phone and I'm starting a conversation. I know you probably tired of me calling you and asking you for money, but if you could lend me a good 5,000, I'll get you back 12% in a matter of et cetera. Yeah. So that was it. Between that and just pulling funds from everywhere and hustling.
It's an important thing, because in venture capital, everyone talks about that friends and family round. And we don't think that it happens for you if you're not even in that industry. Important part of the building of the business. And that leads me to the friends and the family, to the question around mentorship. And Mr. Cunningham, you talked about your mentors. Brandon, you talked about your uncle and your father. So the question that came in on Facebook was, how did you go about finding your mentors, and what role has it played? And do you have advice for other entrepreneurs watching on how they can sort of attract to themselves a set of mentors that can help them to grow? So, Cunningham, how did you do that?
Well, somewhere I heard that you have to find somebody doing something that you want to do, and kind of mimic what they're doing and model what they're doing, and just sit down with them and talk with them. So I've just found a friend in the industry who was just so willing to just bring me into their office. And I knew this person from past relationships. It was another trade, but he was a business owner. And we always cross paths on jobs. I say, I'm on this job, they're on this job, and we hired them a couple of times to do work, and he was just a great person. So he just turned out, he was a friend, and he was just he's very smart in this industry. So I don't know if I just lucked up and found him, but it's just somebody that I knew in the industry, and he was willing to sit me down and take me under his wing and give me some guidance on, where to turn left, right, and go up or go down. So it's just been a great experience.
Nice.
No, what a blessing. What a blessing. And I think, as we think about some folks who are thinking, how can I be a mentor? How can I be a mentee? And then what you just said was really helpful of showing the value of how that really accelerated your business and professional development. And Brandon, I feel like you got born with mentors, but really it wasn't a given that your father and uncle would mentor you, right? It really you had to be accessible for that. So, what advice do you have for others about mentoring within the family, mentoring within those who are within your close proximity?
Close proximity family. So my father's a rough cut, and he's a straight shooter. So, but at the same time, he's not the type to just bleed information. But if you probe him enough, he'll give you everything. He kind of wants to feel like, you need me for something? Okay, I got you. One of them. So, but he's full of information. So I really did just bleed him dry, everything that he knew. And then I realized that for where we're going and for the things that we need to accomplish, he mightn't be all that I need. So I have to figure out the other mentors. Unfortunately, I haven't been successful at finding a mentor in the construction industry that's willing to really help us get there and scale to where we want to go. But along the way, I have found a lot of valuable mentors like Paz Morris and Byron Deese, and a lot of people in the Engage Connect, and just people around that have I feel like God put me in position in times where I was needing information or yearning for information, much like the 10,000 small business, the Goldman Sachs course. That was that was more like, I feel like they were friends, and they were part of the cohort, but they were all mentors to me, especially those that were in the construction industry. And I haven't, really rang their phone enough to get, all of the information that I like to get, but that time there was very valuable for me. So I appreciate it. And it just been, slowly but surely, I just been plugging in and finding mentors here and there. And when I'm around them, I ask them everything I need to ask them and keep it pushing.
No, I agree. I think what you just said was a couple of things. One, your ability to tap into a network, the 10,000 small business. I want to give a big shout out to the team that's on my team that works on that initiative. The deadline has been extended until September 22nd. If you want to apply, we put it in the chat. We put it on Facebook. So please apply to that program. It's an amazing program. But also, you talked about when you do find someone, you try to extract as much as you can, because ultimately that helps with the growth of your business. And that leads me to a question. I've seen it a couple times in the chat. We've seen it on Facebook. But this question around you building your clientele and building your business. Because you all, Mr. Cunningham, you and Brandon, you're in businesses where you have a core business, but you also have to market, gain additional clients. So how did you go about building your clientele? How did you build your business get individuals to get that first client, that second client, and that multiplier effect? How have you been able to do that? So, Mr. Cunningham?
Well, the way I started out, I'm a specialty contractor, you know, first. I'm a general contractor, but a specialty contractor. So I established a relationship with a national laboratory casework manufacturer. And some of those guys, we used to work for the same company some years ago. So it's a small industry, small world. So they are giving me repeat. Once I got the first job and they knew of me and they saw my work ethic and the finished product, I've been getting repeat business from them. Now, there's another major supplier on the millwork side that I've also been courting and have started to develop a relationship with and started to do some jobs that's going to have a lead down the architectural woodwork side. So really what I've been doing is getting work via word of mouth for the most part. That I haven't had to market as much. Now, I will say that being in the B local class and getting that exposure was very great. I mean, you know, the architects, all the presenters on that team added some value to what I was doing. And, you know, so that's been great. So I would just say that just the contacts that you have through these sessions that John Hopkins does, and like you say, the Goldman Sachs, I haven't been involved with that, or the 10,000 small business program.
We'll get you in this year. I'm going to put my word in for you.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. But those things have been very instrumental.
Excellent, excellent. How about you, Brandon?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
How have you been able to build your clientele? How have you been able to build your marketing, build your business?
Well, in the start of it, it was a lot from what the legacy my father and my uncle started. So I grew up in Pumphrey. Shout out to Pumphrey. Shout out to everybody who grew up there, all my family, all of that. And growing up, a lot of people call me Lil Flutie. So a lot of people knew that I was working with my pops. I started out working with him when I was about 12. So they would see me a lot during the summers and off times when I went in school, you know, hustling. So when I did venture into the business, it was almost like, oh, it makes sense. It's kind of like my mom being a musician, and then they see me up on a mic, they're like, oh yeah, well, it makes sense. So once I realized that, I tried to cap on everything that, you know, Pops could bring in as far as his clientele or his recommendations on people to work with, vendors, etc. So from that, we just grew over time. We did do some marketing, some light marketing, like, you know, I had the sticker or the magnet on the truck, and the phone calls were just coming in, and then I took the magnet off the truck because it was way too much and I couldn't handle it all. And then nowadays, I'm venturing into my second marriage. Shout out to my beautiful wife, Nigeria, I love you. She has really been instrumental in helping me to max out. So she helped me put together the website, and from there, it's really just been on and on. We got a 1-800 number. So the work is just keeps coming in. It's really word of mouth. A lot of about 80%, 85% of our work comes word of mouth. Yeah.
So what's interesting about what you and Mr. Cunningham have said is that the good work you do opens the opportunity for more work, right? Yeah. It's the repeat business. It's the word of mouth, the good product that you all produce, that it really allows for you to build. And I know we have a number of entrepreneurs around. Now, I wasn't an entrepreneur, I was a lawyer at a law firm. But our managing partner used to always say, the way to get more work is to do that work that's on your desk really great. It gets you more. And so that's true in all these different industries. So let me ask you this question's come up a couple of different times in different ways, is how has COVID impacted your businesses? So how did the pandemic, last 18 months, impact you as as entrepreneurs? So Mr. Cunningham, how did it impact you?
Well, in 2020, I had a very good year in that COVID year because my business is installing laboratory furniture. So most of the labs were rushing to get in place to be able to take advantage
That's
of the
great.
testing and whatnot. But 2021, this year was a little slow because the architects were and owners were a little reluctant to put new projects out for bid. So it affected, the personal protective piece, because you had to go mask and, the testing, and there were delays sometimes on job sites when someone came up positive. And, when you're working with a small crew, one guy out of three, really, that's a third of your crew down because of COVID. But we were able to, cycle around that and continue working. And again, like 2020, I say was a really good year. 21 has not been as great, but I see a lot of potential coming up in the future. So we just continue to put policies in place to track, to do the contact tracing and things like that. It's all those kinds of things that you have to put in your safety plan to monitor. And so it's another thing to do on top of all the other business paperwork that you have to deal with. But it's been a little bit of a slow grind and slowed me down a little bit. But for the most part, because of the industry that I'm in, it's almost like a benefit because, people need labs these days. All the universities, the hospitals, the Johns Hopkins, you guys need those facilities.
Absolutely. No, it's interesting how many entrepreneurs on here where you think 2020 has been a bad year. Then they talk about something coming good out of 2020 in terms of the business. How about you, Brandon? How did you fare in the pandemic?
So 2020, we had just started a 6-unit or 6-building rehab with Vinroy July. Shout out to July. And we teamed up with 2 other general contractors to complete the project. So being that it was a vacant block of houses, we were pretty much in the best condition you could be because all we had to do was worry about our crew. And thankfully, everybody made it through unscathed. We didn't have any issues. And then like maybe 6 months into the heat of the pandemic, somebody kicked off some whole, the outdoor thing, it's when the weather started getting nice and everybody was thinking, okay, well, we don't have to do anything interior. Excuse me, let's complete all of the outdoor work. And that was all well and good until the prices started to skyrocket, where the prices of plywood was $14 and it went up to $58, and it was like a 14% markup or something crazy. But so that part was a little bit difficult, but we were already in a win and dealing with the developer for the 6-unit. And then there was more investors that were reaching out, trying to figure out how to take advantage of the time because that they were not, most of the investors have a job and, now they're working from home. So they were able to move and shake a little more and try to take care of the other, their other side hustle, which was investing in real estate. So we actually had a good year as well. 2020 and 2021, we've been pushing and trying to keep up. So thank God for it.
That is a pleasure. I'm glad to hear, and I'm glad to hear that you did well. And all the names you all keep saying are people that we've had on or been associated with. So it's so nice to see that the circle and the community is able to support one another. And that leads me to a question. We had a number of people on Poll Everywhere, and I forgot to mention, if you want to also participate, we have some legacy folks to watch, but you can text 22333 and type JHUWL in the message, and we'll get all those questions in, and I'll make sure that weave them into the conversation. The question about you building your team, and how do you build your teams? That you're in industries where you can't do it alone. You are part of great teams. So how did you go about building your teams that are ultimately a part of your enterprise? So, Mr. Cunningham, how did you approach that?
Well, I started with people that I know. And one thing that I failed to mention about how COVID affected my company is initially my brother was involved with my company. We were partners. And during COVID, he didn't get sick or anything, but he felt the need to bring his family together. And he's older than me. He's an old guy. So he was retired. I was kind of trying to bring him out of retirement to help out, but he felt family first. And I really liked the fact that he wanted to take care of his family first. So he kind of pulled back. So that was a negative for me for COVID, because I think we could have, we had some big things that we could have done because of that. But moving forward, people is the biggest, your team. So I had another gentleman that I've known for over 20 years, and he's mostly a field guy, field foreman, superintendent. And over the years, it's just, I've learned that he and I just think the same. And that's a big relief, because I can go and do the office politics stuff and deal with all the issues surrounding building the business on the paperwork side. And I can rely on him to do and make decisions that are in line with my thinking. So that was very important. That was the biggest start in building my team, is having somebody that I could trust. And then from there, we can reach out to individuals and bring them in, because we have the same mindset. He knows what I'm looking for. I know what he's looking for. And it just makes it so much easier, because his personality is a little different than mine. I'm a little bit more reserved. He's reserved, but he's a little bit more outspoken and outgoing. So I think we just make a good team. So I look for people that I feel comfortable with, and that I can have a conversation with, and they are like-minded, and have the same work ethic. You can kind of tell that from a somewhat of a conversation, but if you know them and know where they come from, you kind of can tell that they're gonna, work out for you. So that's how I built.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that word trust that you said is so critically important as you are building your business, thinking about, but at any point in your business, the undergird of it. And how about you, Brandon? How did you go about building your business? Your team?
Yeah, we started out with family as well. And actually, we're still moving a lot with family. We ventured out into, a few workers that we didn't know. One was a female who actually came up on a job site down at the the block of houses we were working on. And she said she was looking for an opportunity, and that she had a son or nephew that was looking for an opportunity as well. So we brought them two in. Fortunately, it didn't work out too good, but outside of that, we try to team up once we do connect with other contractors that are capable, and we can see that they understand value. We try to connect with them in a way to create opportunities that allow us to work together and kind of get to know each other's how-tos, and then after that, just coordinate on different projects, multiple projects here and there. If we can't get to them, we call them up, figure out if they can get to them. If we can team up and make the project go smooth and get it done quick, then we do that. And then outside of that, if we had to keep it in-house, we just keep it all in-house.
No, I think you dropped a really great gem just now when you said that you also think about teaming up with other companies, right, to accomplish a task and to accomplish a goal. And I guess as you're thinking about, scaling and growing, Mr. Cunningham, I love your comments on, as advice to those who are out here who may be contractors who are 1 or 2 people or 3 people. How is teaming or JVing on projects? Has that been a tool that you've used as well?
Was that directed at me?
Yes.
Oh, yes, it has. I've talked to other companies that are, that do the same thing that we do when we have an issue where we need additional manpower. So yes, we would reach out to them and we go forward with the project together. So yes, that is, and you have to reach out to, like, as Brandon said, folks that are like-minded, same value system, You know, you see their body of work, and you know that they're respected in the industry, so you don't mind partnering up with them. As a startup, sometimes it's a little harder because they don't know as much history about you, so you have to sell yourself a little bit. But it's, yes, that's been helpful and has worked.
Now, I know we have a number of people on. We have other companies like Hopkins and others. We have other folks who are thinking about, yeah, I'm seeing these two gentlemen who are clearly at the top of the game in the construction industry. Tell me a little bit more about like the core work you do. So, Mr. Cunningham, tell us about like sort of, you talked about laboratory, but what's the range of work that you do so that folks who are watching, who are thinking about, I want to hire a local contractor, I want to hire someone in my community that's employing folks in our community. What's the scope and scale of the work that you do?
Well, as I said it before, I'm a general contractor. That's where my license is, but I'm leaning toward that specialty field where we focus on the laboratory casework and equipment and carpentry services. So if there's someone that has, you know, carpentry skills, that's who we're looking for. And if someone wants to align themselves with a company that's growing in that arena, that's what we're looking for. Good project managers, good thinkers, knows the industry and the trades. And I would say, you know, I'm trying to do work at Johns Hopkins as far as a small contractor that does renovations, like if you have small labs that you want to renovate, because I just have a passion for all the trades and the coordination involved with that, the electrical, mechanical, plumbing, you know, coordination, and then the equipment and the connections and things of that nature. So I'm looking for folks that are technical. So if anybody has technical skills, they want to learn something, because in construction, you don't know it all. You know, I know some old heads, and you learn something almost every project. And if you're interested in learning and growing and communicating and coordinating, that's what I like to do. That's what we, you know, like to do. And we like to do that for the owners. If they have a unique project where they want someone that's going to say, this is my project, because every project has it's somebody's personal project. And I want to make sure that that person is satisfied at the end, that they're going to get whatever the design intent is going to be met at the end of the project. And it's going to be something that they like. And if they need to change gears along the way, we're flexible and we understand. Sometimes you put it on paper, and when you start to put rubber to the road, it's not the same. And so you have to shift gears a little bit. So that's who we're looking for, people who are willing to, that are flexible, you know, and want to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Brandon? What's your core work? We have folks watching, and thankfully we do have some folks in the design and construction team on our team watching, so that's great. So tell us about, Brandon, what's your core work? What's the body of work that you have as well?
We're 85% residential construction, and by residential construction, we like to focus on like if it's your home, maybe a finished basement, new kitchen remodel, bath, additions, and then outside of that, with investors and developers, we do total gut rehabs, we do new construction. So really from all the way from a finished bathroom or a gut remodel in the bathroom to a brand new house. That's the range of where we are.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
we were working on an opportunity
so
to build
great.
out in Pumphrey where I grew up, but I'm not sure if that's going to pan out, but we're going to see.
So excellent. We got a couple more questions that came in. And this is from, we always have high school students on, and we know hopefully we have a number of them. I can't tell which high schools you're from, but I know many of the trade schools. And so this question was posed, which is, what advice would you give to them as they're thinking about starting in the construction field, thinking about being entrepreneurs, thinking about learning their crafts? Are there any advice that you sort of look back and you say, if I was in high school, I wish I'd known this? So things, the tips that you would give them. Mr. Cunningham, I'll start with you.
Okay. I would say to them to just latch on to a construction company and start from the ground up. Don't be shy, or don't think it's beneath them to do whatever, because no matter where you are on a construction site, you're going to hear conversations, you're going to see things happening, and you can learn from all of that. And sometimes we tend to want to be the guy in charge versus knowing what it takes to be in charge. And that's a time thing. So it's being patient, it's listening, and taking action, and being proactive. You know, if you see something that needs to be done, you know, step up and do it. Don't just see things happening around you and not do anything about it. Even from just picking up trash, you know, because a clean job site means it's a safe job site.
Right.
And safety in this arena is we want everybody to go home with all their fingers and toes and you know, and acting safe. So you can only do that if everybody is, you know, taking care of their workspace. And that means no nails on the ground, no pencils, you know, bottles, you know, it's just, and I would tell students to just do that. Just look at the older folks on sites and just do what they do, and listen to what they're saying, and don't try to be so aggressive and say that you know what you're talking about. I mean, listen, because there's many ways to do things, even picking up trash. I mean, there's a couple ways to do that and do that safely. So just be willing. I would tell them just to be willing to learn, you know, don't be so willing to speak, you know, just take in all you can, and then filter it once you get home, you know, and use the good stuff and filter out the bad stuff, and go to the next day charged up to be the best whoever you are. If you're the floor sweeper, you're the best floor sweeper. If you're the best track layer, you're the best track layer. You know, just strive to be the best you can be. And then when people see you, if they recognize your talent, then they will start to promote you and put you in different positions and introduce you to new things. And that's when you start to blossom and you start to learn more. So that would be my advice to them.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the window of time to learn, and for people to, and you know, young to learn, not to let that pass you by. Great advice. How about you, Brandon? What would you say to those young people that are watching that are saying, you know, I want to be like Mr. Cunningham, I want to be like Mr. Johnson? What advice would you give to them?
First, go online, www.cidconstruction.org. Go in the contact session, send us your information, and we can figure out how to get you on the team. We can get you a nice shirt, get you some threads, and get you in the game. The other part is
get you on the team. I don't blame you.
Right, 1,000% everything he said. Always make sure that you're doing the best you can with whoever you are in whatever position that has been designated to you on that construction site. Put your phone away. Put your phone away.
Absolutely.
Put your phone away. Be safe in all and everything that you do. Be present. Don't just be, you know, drift into the shadows of everything else because you're trying to figure out how to get paid for the 8 hours in a day with doing the least amount of work. Most of the contractors that are in this game and that are vets in the game, we have an unprecedented ability to see in like an owl vision. Okay, so there's a lot of things that go on behind us, and we don't have to turn around and look to know that you're not doing what we've been asked to do. We can see you even though we're not looking because we're listening. You can. There's a way you can use a miter box, and we can tell if you're using it correctly or incorrect. There's a way you use a saw, and we can tell by the sound of the blade whether you're using it. And the same thing with a screw gun. You can screw something into the wall, and we can listen to the time it takes an 1 5/8 screw to go into a stud versus a 3-inch screw to go into a stud. Those things we know. So it's not too much, excuse my French, piss off that you can do on a construction site without it being noticed. Somebody's always watching, somebody is always attentive, and you need to move and conduct yourself as if there's always somebody watching, even when there is no one watching. It's imperative in construction.
And now both of you just got some folks, and I see them already inching. They want to know, how old do they have to be to work for you all? So what's the minimum age?
18 with a sound mind. 21 if you're a little shaky.
Yeah.
18 with a sound mind. 21 if you're a little shaky.
Yeah.
It's real. That's actually real, bro. I think that's for everything. How about you, Nate?
I echo that same sentiment. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yep.
Excellent. Let me ask this question, which is regarding what's the most challenging part? We received this from a number of folks on what's the most challenging part of being in your industry? Are there things that people don't anticipate being a challenge for you all? Mr. Cunningham, what would you say? I see you thinking about that.
Well, I would say, in commercial construction, the project sizes are large. So one of the challenges was getting bonding. A few times when I look at a project and I said, it's a nice job, but they require a bond. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge. I was able to work out a bonding program. Thankfully, my mentor gave me the right contact to do that. But as I get into larger projects, if I want to grow, I need to grow that bonding capacity. So that's going to be a matter of time. So that's one thing. And then I think another issue is just available manpower. And I'm glad that, there's some young folks on that are, interested in construction, because I think it's one of those fields that is not a glorified field. Right. But I think it's a necessary field, and I think there's great opportunity there. So I think the availability, that's going to be a challenge moving forward as we get larger projects, is having folks that are qualified, willing and able and wanting to be in the construction industry. It's not a fancy industry to be in, but it's a necessary industry. And I think it's a very rewarding industry. If someone gets in from the ground up and learn the trade, I think it could be very rewarding.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How about you, Brandon? How would what would you say, how can people think about getting into the industry and think about building a career in the industry?
Well, I feel like our biggest challenge is finding quality workers and dealing with the negative views that are placed on a large amount of, let's just say, Baltimore contractors. Getting around that, and then outside of that is just operating capital. That's probably the three things that are the biggest. We've been fortunate enough to push our value and get to that point where, folk who are calling us up or venture out to hire us for a project, they already know the value they're going to get. And when we come into the game, but it's still difficult finding quality workers and getting through the operating capital. That's it.
Yeah. No, I think those are great challenges, and hopefully we have some banks on today. Hopefully we have some investors on today. We do have one investor. I did figure out we did get one on. Let me ask you this: the young people on here are so excited by you two, and I just want to thank you both for just your leadership and your inspiration that you're giving today. They asked if you're willing to let a younger student that might be 17 or 16 just come and see what you do. Just come and maybe visit or see how what is it like to be you. Would you allow for young people to shadow?
Well, I started out when I was 12, so I mean, who am I to turn down anybody who is from 12 to 18? If you got the heart of a lion and you're willing to come out and learn, then That's really what it's all about. It starts there. If you had that willingness to stay there and focus, and I mean, it takes some belly, you know, this construction is not no easy fix. It's not like going to Foot Locker or working at Burger King, or it's hustle. You know what I mean? There's some days where it's lax and all we're doing is painting, but still, you know, if you haven't conditioned your body and your muscle to, you know, control a paintbrush across the corner of a wall for 24 feet, then yeah, it's going to get strenuous after a while. But if you got that kind of belly, then yeah, come, let me go.
And I would say, yes, if there's someone interested, I mean, we have things that are going on in the office all the time, you know, estimating and things of that nature. They can see that side of the business. Because I think sometimes, like with our families, you know, our kids, you know, they're video game kind of thing. And when they say construction, they think it's all dirty and that kind of, but there's different sides to constructions, you know, there's different places, and you can always find a fit if you want to get into that industry. So if there's 17-year-olds who want to come in and see what happens and how it happens, and from, you know, from the beginning to all the way till you put that paintbrush on the wall, I would be very glad to show them, and, you know, all the aspects of construction. That is my passion moving forward. I want to share that with my family members. You know, I got grandkids that, you know, when they're out of school, I want to bring them down here in the basement and talk to them about construction and look at estimates and look at spreadsheets and things like that to see if it, you know, piques their interest, because who knows, you know, what's going to, they see something and that's interesting and they latch on to it. So yeah, those 17-year-olds are welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely great. I mean, I'm so glad the young people are on today and watching and inspired by you and asking, even if they don't hit 18, can they come? I just think it speaks volumes about you, who you both are. We have our confirmed, we did confirm, Oprah is watching. A couple other investors along with her are watching. I know, say hi. So the question we always pose, because when Oprah's watching, we want to make sure she gets this answer, which is, what can she do, but also speak to the rest of us who aren't Oprah, but or want to support businesses like yours. How can we ensure that businesses like yours continue to thrive in our community? Are there a couple of things that we should be doing, things that we should be advocating for to make sure that you not only exist, but thrive and grow and build wealth and expansion? So, Mr. Cunningham, any tips? It's Oprah on, so I want to make sure you, yeah.
How you doing, Ms. Winfrey? I would say that what we need is, as Brandon had mentioned earlier, is working capital. That's always a stumbling block for a startup, because that's the piece that opens the door to a lot of things, you know, because if you want to get bonding, they're looking at how much cash you have available to, you know, to even get to a bonding program. And, you know, if you have immediate payroll, so those are things, if you don't have a company that's going to pay you quickly, so now you got to come out of pocket to get your guys paid to get things moving. So that's a little bit of a stressor. So always working capital, and that initial investment is a big key for a startup to get moving and keep moving and stay in a positive direction. So that's what I would say.
I think that's great advice and great perspective and helpful for all of us to hear that as we think about investments, as we think about supporting working capital. How about you, Brandon? What's your advice to Oprah?
Definitely the working capital, but I would also say, Oprah, Miss Winfrey, I apologize, please inspire the communities and the families and the friends to support those contractors or those carpenters or those members of the family who are venturing into entrepreneurship. It's very disheartening when, you know, you have a neighbor and they know that you're doing construction and they hire somebody else, or you have a family member that knows you're doing construction and then they're like, oh, well, I didn't know that you were doing that. I didn't know, but you were sitting there watching all of everything transpire. You've been watching, and so that part is really irritating. And I feel like Miss Winfrey, you might be the only one to inspire us to do more involved with us. So yeah, I would greatly appreciate that. And if you need me to come on the show and speak on it some more, let me know. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I said this on Monday. We had a Buy in Baltimore program about businesses. Everything we need can be bought within our community.
Yeah.
It actually can be. And so I think your background encouraging individuals to choose local entrepreneurs like you, Mr. Cunningham, and like you, Mr. Johnson, and to utilize them as we think about our projects, to have you on the edges of our list, so that when someone asks who could do that job, we're saying your names. I think that's just great advice for all of us. I do want to give you the chance to give us, how can people get in contact with you? How can they get you to work on our jobs? How can we get you? So, Mr. Cunningham, give us your .coms, how do we get in contact with you?
My website is ccginkworld.com. That's one way to get in touch with me. My cell number is always good, 443-463-0599. And just talk to the community contractors and ask about the Cunningham Consulting Group and see if you're getting the positive feedback, and look us up. We're ready and willing to do some bigger and better things for you.
Excellent, excellent. How about you? How do we get in contact with you, Mr. Johnson?
Cool. Well, the website, www.cidconstruction.org. And if you need to reach out and touch, call 1-833-YES-4CID. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I think that's 1-833-937-4243, I believe. Yeah, so
yep.
Reach out and touch.
Excellent. Let me just say, it has been a complete honor to interview both of you today on Entrepreneurship Matters. I'm sad that my Wi-Fi was being disloyal, but that's okay, because we made it happen. We got a great conversation going. So that is a blessing. That's a complete blessing. And we wish all the best to you. Folks, if you share this with our contracting community, and that's my plea, share it with all of us who are about to buy out jobs. We just had a conversation today about buying out a job for us at Hopkins, but buying out jobs, make sure that you have these companies as a part of them, because their entrepreneurship matters. Thank you both so much. Let me give us a couple of announcements, and then we're going to wrap up. Next week, we're going to come back with coffee, best drink of the day. Josh Dew of Vagrant Coffee and Candy Chibi of Southern Roastery. They're both going to be on. Please follow us on Jage Connect on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Email us feedback, jageconnect@jhu.edu. Thank you to our community partners, Johns Hopkins University, Johns Hopkins Health System, Hopkins Local, 10,000 Small Business, Bloomberg Philanthropies, the Warnock Foundation, and the Mayor's Office of Small Minority-Owned Business. Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Really appreciate you today.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for watching.